Melissa Hortman in Minnesota was murdered by a Trump supporter who told the New York Post he was a Trump supporter. And when Donald Trump was asked, why didn't you lower the flags for Melissa Hortman? Why did you do it for Charlie Kirk, not her? He said, who? When Nancy Pelosi's husband was beaten over the head with a hammer, Donald Trump Jr. posted a photo on Instagram mocking it. Donald Trump also mocked it, saying, how's Paul Pelosi doing right now? Might I add, January 6th was the largest example of political violence in modern American...
Welcome back to another fiery debate. Today, we're watching Michael Knowles get challenged on his own show by Harry Sisson and Chris Mowry. Michael is known for deflecting points made against him. So let's take a closer look at how he responds as Harry and Chris press him throughout the debate.
Bill Clinton said. We're
I was born in 2002. Like, I don't care
what Bill Clinton said. We're a different party now. We have a nuanced take that would help the United States.
You guys nominated Hillary less than 10 years ago.
Yeah, I would argue that Hillary in 2016 was different than Bill Clinton in his presidency. Hillary Clinton was not calling for social services to be defunded. But we in the Democratic Party have a nuanced view of immigration that is far better for the United States than you, who is just like, should we deport everybody or not? It's not an absolute. It's not absolute.
Only enforce the law when I want to. That's
no.
You
voted for a convicted felon. You voted for a felon.
Voted for a felon.
Come on,
another question.
All right, sorry.
I'm back. This time for you boys.
Okay.
Early on, I think it was Harry, but it could have been either one of you.
You just confused. They all look the same.
We do look the same.
That's all.
Generic white guys.
Generic white guys do look very similar, yes.
But you made the claim that right-wing political violence is more prominent than left-wing political violence.
Absolutely.
Which is an insane claim to make when in September, Charlie Kirk was assassinated on a college campus debating people in friendly debate. And since then, we have only seen a rise in left-wing violence. We see them openly chanting for people to be killed, including Donald Trump.
Violent speech is violence now?
People, including Nick Shirley,
it can
who
be.
went out
in some cases, but not that
to
case.
do journalism, independent journalism.
Nick Shirley's not a journalist.
And
he's not a journalist. He's an idiot.
They told him he would get kirked.
Okay,
wait.
Hold on. I'm gonna let Harry answer this. I just want to say two things briefly. What happened to Charlie Kirk was absolutely abhorrent and wrong and terrible. I want to point that out. Number one. Number two, Nick Shirley is not a journalist. Okay, I'll explain. If you let me, please. Look at these people freaking out.
He's not a journalist because he actually breaks news stories.
There's nothing about what Nick Shirley, the stupid video, nothing was uncovered, right? We've been going after this fraud in Minnesota for a long time. The Biden DOJ literally brought charges against like 55 different people in Minnesota relating
to do with political violence.
All right, I know. Quickly, Nick Shirley didn't expose anything that we didn't already know, and it was full of a bunch of lies, hate, and racism. That's all I'm saying.
Look,
it's the truth.
Here. Look, we, both Chris and I, first of all, on a serious note, the day that Charlie Kirk was shot and murdered, we both got out there on every platform and said it is horrific.
Yes,
horrific.
Wonderful.
We condemn it.
I am not accusing you.
We agree with all political violence is bad.
Yes.
Political violence is bad. We disagree with it. We still disagree with it. We don't make jokes about it. We don't laugh about it. It was horrific. We all saw it on our timelines. It was awful.
Right.
Great. Now, on the topic of political violence, Melissa Hortman in Minnesota was murdered by a Trump supporter who told the New York Post he was a Trump supporter. And when Donald Trump was asked, why didn't you lower the flags for Melissa Hortman? Why did you do it for Charlie Kirk, not her? He said, who? When Nancy Pelosi's husband was beaten over the head with a hammer, Donald Trump Jr. posted a photo on Instagram mocking it. Donald Trump also mocked it, saying, how's Paul Pelosi doing right now? Might I add, January 6th was the largest example of political violence in modern American...
Harry.
Wait. Can I finish this point?
It wasn't even the largest example of political violence at the Capitol.
It's the largest example of political violence in modern American history. What happened?
What about when the Puerto Rican nationalists shot up the House floor and shot 5 members of Congress?
That's bad.
What about when
let me answer a question.
What about when the Weather Underground set off a bomb in the Capitol?
Let me answer a question.
This is all recent. I'm just saying
I'm happy to talk about, condemn all of it. That was the largest example of political violence in recent American history. And what happened to those people? They beat police officers. They got prosecuted by a proper DOJ, and then Donald Trump pardoned them. By the way, many of them have been convicted again or charged again on serious crimes like child pornography possession, right? So you want to talk about political violence? Look at your own side. Donald Trump mocks political violence, whereas we condemn all of it. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, you should be able to say what you want when you want.
The MAGA speaker pushes back strongly, arguing that the political left is actually more violent. His main example? The recent death of Charlie Kirk. But here's where the debate becomes controversial. At the time of the discussion, there was no publicly confirmed proof establishing a clear political motive. Even political leaders gave mixed signals, with the governor of Utah suggesting the suspect may have had left-leaning ties, while reports also noted the suspect's parents were registered Republicans. In other words, the facts were still unclear. Yet the argument relies heavily on this single case to claim that the left is broadly more violent. And that's exactly where Harry pushes back. Instead of focusing on one incident, he points to multiple examples connected to right-wing extremism, arguing that you can't establish a national trend based on one unresolved event. This creates a clear contrast in debate strategy. One side presents a single dramatic example. The other responds with a pattern of multiple cases. As the tension rises, viewers can see Michael Knowles begin to shift the conversation away from the core comparison, moving the discussion towards side arguments and credibility fights, rather than staying on the original question of political violence trends. Then comes another flashpoint: journalism. Supporters present Nick Shirley as a major independent journalist exposing corruption. Critics strongly disagree. They argue Shirley's reporting style relies more on confrontation than investigation, pointing to videos where he shows up at daycare centers with a camera, demanding access to children, which opponents say crosses ethical lines rather than uncovering new information. Meanwhile, federal authorities were already investigating fraud allegations in Minnesota. The Trump administration responded by freezing roughly $185 million in federal child care funding, while the FBI and DHS increased personnel to examine potential fraud schemes. Follow-up inspections by Minnesota officials reported that 9 out of 10 child care sites Shirley visited were licensed and operating as expected. So the disagreement becomes larger than one reporter. It turns into a deeper question. Is this investigative journalism exposing hidden problems, or political content designed to create outrage first and evidence later? And once again, the debate moves away from facts alone and into competing narratives about trust, media, and political identity.
Do Democrats condemn all of it?
Yes.
Because there was a very interesting article in a magazine I very rarely read called The Atlantic, which pointed out that as of last year, contrary to previous trends, political violence became predominantly a left-wing phenomenon rather than a right-wing phenomenon. Now, this was based on evidence from a generally more left-leaning institute, obviously in The Atlantic, which is left-leaning. And what's funny about it is, even using their own data, which exclude instances of left-on-right political violence, including one that I experienced myself when Antifa showed up and threw an explosive at a building when I was on stage. It was great. It was okay. We survived. The poor cop was injured, but she made it out okay eventually.
Good.
That wasn't even counted in the data sets of political violence. The BLM violence, which killed dozens of people, wasn't counted in the data sets of political violence. And so hold on. The point I'm making, Harry, is...
Go ahead.
Even using data sets which, by and large, exclude left-wing political violence, even The Atlantic magazine admitted that today, political violence in America is predominantly a left-wing, not a right-wing phenomenon.
So, but there's data undercounted on both sides, I'm sure. I've had political violence against me by Republicans in the streets. It was awful, and obviously I'm fine, I made it. But that was not counted in any of these studies.
If I may ask.
You can ask. Well, it was funny. We were in the bar in New York City. My friends and I were walking around. These guys came up to me. They were like, "Oh, Harry Sisson." They shoved the phone in my face. They threw a beer, and we threw some punches. It's fine. It's never. I've never talked. I never talked about it before.
Are you breaking news on it?
No.
But you and I have also both been swatted before.
I've been swatted. I've had the FBI sent to the FBI sent to my house, my school, all that crap. It's been bad. But do you condemn what Donald Trump did by mocking Paul Pelosi's assault?
Yeah, I wouldn't mock Paul Pelosi's
Okay,
assault.
great.
Wait, but hold on. But that was,
by the way, that wasn't.
Hold on one second.
Yes or no?
Do you condemn Donald Trump pardoning the police officers?
I don't condemn Donald Trump. He's the greatest president of my lifetime.
Well, that's super fucking weird.
The difference.
That's
right.
Wait. Time out. Hold on. Michael. And then I'm going to ask the crowd as well. Do you condemn Donald Trump pardoning people who beat police officers?
Which people? You're
talking
like Alex
the people on January 6th.
You're talking about Alex
No, on
Preddy
January
and Renee
6th. Do you condemn
I do condemn Alex Preddy and Renee Good in their political
whatever.
behaviors.
Do you condemn the people who beat police officers on January 6th?
I think that January 6th was
okay. You're not going to give me an answer.
Was one of the most mild examples.
$20 bucks.
$20 to answer my question.
Yes or no?
Do you condemn? Do you condemn Donald Trump?
Then I'll tell you if it's
Do you condemn Donald Trump pardoning people who beat police officers?
I don't.
Can I wait?
I want to ask the crowd now.
Wait,
hold on. I'm going to ask the crowd as well. Do you guys condemn Donald Trump pardoning people who beat police officers almost to death? I don't care about you. Yes or no? Yes?
A Trump supporter is the only person who died.
I want to point out, wait.
Thank you.
This guy over here said who died on January 6th. I want to point out there's been 4 Capitol police officers since that day who have taken their own life in relation. Hold on, can I finish?
That's not the question he asked.
Hold on. In relation to that event, because they had a bunch of MAGA people telling them that they were part of a deep state conspiracy, they had nowhere to go, they had families.
Knowles brings up an article from The Atlantic, arguing that recent data suggests political violence may now be more connected to the left than the right. He claims that incidents involving Antifa and violence during BLM protests were not fully counted in major studies, meaning the public might be seeing an incomplete picture. His argument focuses on how violence is measured, suggesting the statistics themselves may be biased or selective. Harry Sisson responds by changing the focus of the discussion. Instead of arguing over which side commits more violence overall, he moves the conversation toward accountability and consistency. His main point becomes simple. If political violence is wrong, then leaders should condemn it no matter who commits it. That leads to a direct question aimed at Knowles. Do you condemn Donald Trump pardoning people who assaulted police officers on January 6th? At first, Knowles avoids giving a clear yes or no answer. Talking more broadly about January 6th and Trump's presidency, Harry keeps pressing the question, trying to bring the discussion back to a clear moral position. Eventually, Knowles answers that he does not condemn the pardons, and repeats that he considers Trump the greatest president of his lifetime. At that moment, the debate changes tone again. For Harry, this becomes proof of his argument, that Democrats condemn political violence consistently, while Republicans sometimes defend actions taken by their own side. Knowles, on the other hand, stays focused on defending Trump overall, rather than agreeing with criticism of a specific decision. The discussion then turns to the aftermath of January 6th, with Harry mentioning Capitol police officers who later died by suicide, arguing that the emotional and psychological impact of the event should also be considered. Knowles disagrees, saying that expands the definition of political violence too far. By this point, it's clear both speakers are talking past each other. Knowles is focused on data, definitions, and media framing. Harry is focused on responsibility and moral consistency. One side is asking, which political side is more violent overall? The other is asking, are leaders willing to condemn violence when it comes from their own supporters? And because they're answering different questions, the debate never fully meets in the middle.
So that's number one. I don't think it's reasonable to say that
you're blaming you're now expanding the definition of political violence to include ex post facto suicide.
I'm not. He made a claim.
I think you are.
No, he made a claim that the only person who died at January 6th, for example, was Ashley Babbitt.
That's correct.
I think it's dishonest to not talk about the police officers who have PTSD and then took their own life.
You don't condemn. And furthermore, Michael, you don't fully condemn political violence.
And I also want to point out,
you don't fully condemn political violence.
Hold on. I want to point out.
No, I don't fully condemn political violence in as much as.
Y'all agree with that?
No, I don't. I mean,
someone clip that?
War can
clip
be
that?
justified.
Oh, okay. Political violence that's motivated.
Officers shooting criminals in certain cases. That's justified political violence. The death penalty is justified political violence.
2 weeks ago, a man named Andrew Johnson, who was found guilty of assaulting a police officer on January 6th, he had a prison sentence of, I think it was 2 or 3 years. He had not started his prison sentence yet. He was pardoned.
God damn. It's so loud.
He was pardoned by Donald Trump.
I know you're right.
He was pardoned by Donald Trump, so he never served his sentence for assaulting a police officer on January 6th. He was just arraigned in court with subpoena text messages of him telling this 11-year-old boy, quote, I was a January 6er. I'm going to win a bunch of money because I'm an American hero. I'm going to leave it in my will for you. And he was basically trying to, obviously, he was a predator, right?
Okay,
and so my point being is that Donald Trump pardoned this guy. This 11-year-old boy.
Well, he didn't pardon him for child abuse. Good grief. He pardoned him
he's
because
arguing
it's
out the part of
overzealous
life.
prosecution of political
It's
dissidents.
almost as if
That's a completely disingenuous
No, it's not, because
analogy.
if somebody is willing to assault a police officer on January 6th, it's almost like they are more likely to commit violent crimes within all of our communities. This 11-year-old boy. No, this
what
they
about
commit less crimes.
I am talking about, and you don't want to deport him, and that's why I won $20 from Mary.
I won the $20 on that. He answered the question.
I'm talking about a Donald Trump supporter.
The guy
I'm talking about a Donald Trump supporter who, at the direction of Donald Trump, showed up to the Capitol, beat a police officer, got pardoned, and we're defending it. What are we talking about?
I don't think anyone's defending it.
Why do you
defend it?
One of the biggest problems you see from the right in this exchange becomes clear pretty quickly. Michael Knowles refuses to condemn Trump's pardons for people involved in criminal acts. And that matters, because the presidential pardon is one of the most powerful tools any president has. Historically, it's often been used for non-violent offenders or cases seen as excessive punishment, not events as politically charged as January 6th. Yet many MAGA supporters still describe that day as a peaceful protest, which is exactly where the divide in reality begins. And that's what makes the debate so frustrating. Both sides are starting from completely different interpretations of the same event. Now, to be fair, I actually respect Knowles for stepping into these debates at all. He consistently engages with younger audiences and opponents who strongly disagree with him. And that kind of direct confrontation of ideas is becoming rare in modern politics. At the same time, there's a growing wave of younger Democratic voices entering the media space, and that could reshape the political conversation moving forward. Because right now, what feels missing isn't opinions, it's dialogue. We don't see people on the left willing to seriously challenge ideas, defend their arguments, and test their beliefs in open debate. Like and subscribe for more fiery debate.